Pull up a chair, there's room for your voices. Rise where the truth comes through from coffee. Sips to midnight thoughts. This is where the real talk starts. So take a seat, have a chat, table talk. Where the real talk's at.
Good evening, everybody. Very glad you were here tonight. And we are trying out some new sound equipment, so we'll see how this goes. We are going to make a part 2 from last Saturday about do Christians have to conform to other Christian beliefs? Easy.
Twofer. It's a twofer.
Leave your partner alone.
Yeah, I mean, we got the mic stand here that's bonus erectus, and yeah, I just don't know how to deal with that.
I'm not either. I'm trying to,
Need some fix a flat.
I did the same thing at the house, used the chairs in the kitchen because the table wouldn't work either.
There you go. Here, man. So, yeah, doing a part 2 on conformity to, I guess it's kind of 3 or 4 weeks. But yeah, I mean, last week we spoke about, like, do you have to celebrate Christmas or Easter? Do you have to put up a Christmas tree? Sound changed. Yep, that changed.
I muted my mic because she climbed over here and is going, "It's high."
Yeah. Well,
So
she's good saying hi.
I muted it so, it would be a distraction for everybody.
And muting it was a distraction. Squirrel. But no, I mean, we've spoke the last couple of weeks about conformity and whatnot. Like, do you have to do, what to do, what not to do, so on and so forth. So where we want to head this down.
Well, to elaborate, like, say, for instance, I asked you if you celebrated the holidays.
Right.
And we don't do Halloween, we don't do Easter, Thanksgiving, or Christmas, but we do the holidays, just not in that way.
Right.
Like we did, like last Christmas night, we did games all day.
Right.
Card games. Just card games, if I remember right.
I'm sorry, grandbaby's over here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Grace. Can you hear me? You did the whole stuff out yesterday.
Right.
Can you hear me?
So, we hear you.
We did a couple little games, and then we did Bible trivia.
Yeah,
right.
I sucked at it. Yeah.
Abel won. He had the most right.
Yeah.
My Bible skills are slack. Being a man in the house.
Well, I mean, what was it? Are you supposed to know the verse?
You hear me?
She looked up some Bible verses and try to remember what they were. I don't remember. Like to I don't just
Okay, so more trivia, like
yeah.
who had the long hair that killed people with a donkey jaw?
Yeah.
I'll take Samson for 1,000, Alex.
Speaking of Samson.
It was questions like, who was it that walked on water towards Jesus? Who betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver? What twins were fighting in the mother's womb in the Old Testament? Which leads me to something that I said wrong last week about Esau and Jacob. They were twins. They had the same mother when I said they did not have the same mother last time. I kind of got that a little confused in my head. And doing these finding these questions, I was like, oh, wait, that's right. They were twins, one of those moments. So I wanted to correct that. I try to, I don't want to mislead anybody in the wrong direction at all.
Absolutely. And that's the thing is, some of these chats we have notes for and whatnot, but we go on tangents, and it's drawing from memory. And I'm not Sheldon Cooper. I do not have an eidetic memory where I see it once and chapter verse word for word in 15 different trans. I can't do that. I do remember a lot. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Um, there's some of us, and I throw provisos out there. Don't quote me, but here we are.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah, and the thing about it is on like that specific instance, okay, we were wrong. Outside of a specific Bible study on genealogy, it has nothing to do with a person's faith. You know, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's all right. We need to be correct on this, but whether they were twins or not has absolutely nothing to do with the biblical message.
Right.
So I'm not sweating it.
I'm not either, but I still wanted to do the right thing. And
We do need to, but I do believe that it is important that we don't necessarily have to know what they called Abraham before they called him Abraham.
Right.
Unless you are doing a specific life study or, because it is need to know, don't get me wrong, but it's not paramount to the faith. It's, knowing that name is not going, your faith shouldn't be based on that, and finding it out shouldn't, well, I'm an atheist now,
well, and that kind of goes along with what we're talking about too. Do we conform to other Christians' belief? Well, there's a good example as to why we should always double check scripture.
Always double check. Yeah. And don't even take my word for it. Go find it. Absolutely.
I would definitely go find it, especially if somebody has said, "Hey, I believe you have this wrong."
Yeah. Point it out.
We won't hurt our feelings.
No. Just don't call me late for dinner.
I might still be that too.
Rude.
How dare you? I'm sharing it live, so I don't forget. We had a friend that we both know asked about our live podcast today.
Okay.
That goes to church with you.
Okay.
I'll tell you his name when we get off. But,
Right.
He said he's interested in our episode today because he has his thoughts on it too.
Right. Well, and everybody has thoughts, and that's the thing
Yeah.
is that there's so much of this that you do have to be careful how you bring it up, because
Yeah.
there's certain things it's not specifically right or wrong, but the moment you say it's right or wrong, you become wrong.
Mm-hmm. Become
Yeah.
the villain.
Well, I mean, not necessarily the villain. It's just you're putting context there that the Bible never gives.
Right.
Like I said, there's one of the examples I brought up is I had a boy ask me, hey, at our church we always do a potluck. I'm like, well, that's not scriptural. I mean, specifically, it does tell you to eat,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
That's the Baptist.
well, and I really don't think this was a Baptist church. And surprisingly, all churches like to eat, it seems.
Yeah.
Which I can't fault them for that. But in that example, okay, that's what that church does. Every Sunday after service, they do a potluck. Great. I'm happy for them. There's nothing wrong with it. That is one of their traditions.
Right.
But if anybody in that church tried to say, hey, we have to do this, it's scriptural, anybody that does not do this is anti-scriptural, they've crossed a line and added context that's simply not there. And that's the point I'm making is, there's certain things that, not everybody's going to worship in the same aspect.
Right.
Not everybody's going to, there is a reason we have denominations outside of we simply can't get along. The core tenets of the faith, Christ, the resurrection, birth, virgin birth, so on. I mean, there's certain things that we're all going to, we need to agree on. But other aspects, like the potluck, like acapella, piano and organ, or full accompaniment, that those are, I don't want to say gray areas, but they're not specifically mentioned in the New Testament.
Right.
So you can refer back to the old, or this is how we like to do it, and that works for us. But the moment you say we're right, you're wrong, you're somewhere between judgment and, I mean, would that count as blasphemy?
Maybe depends how far they go into it.
Right.
I had a friend.
I mean, potentially false profiting, because if you're adding context to the Bible that isn't there,
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
I had a friend that he admitted to going to a Fleming church a year just to get free food, especially on holidays. He would see old time friends were going to them off for lunch, dinner, breakfast. Whatever.
right.
I'm like, that's a good idea, but that's not good. Especially churches you don't attend.
Yeah. The funny part there is some of that seed might eventually take.
Right.
And if that's the case,
it
so
benefit in his case, yeah.
Right. I can't even knock that, but I do.
It's a good idea.
Being right here at the holidays, I do find it troubling, and I don't say this judgmentally, but it's going to sound. I do find it troubling. People go to, like where churches are giving out toys for kids that are supposed to be for underprivileged, and some of the folks aren't that underprivileged.
Right.
I guess that could be a judgment call, but
Give it to people that need it.
well, and
That's what we always say.
That's where I've always been with it. Is, don't do this so it frees up money so you can spend it somewhere else.
Right.
Manage your money better.
Right.
Because there are people that manage their money and still can't afford it. Now, after Christmas, if the church still has a room full of crap, then you can have it.
Yeah.
Because they'd probably happily give it away just to clear up room.
Our church, he said he had a whole room, didn't he? Greg Lock. There's a whole other side of the sanctuary full of toys. Here, have at it.
Yeah.
Last Sunday. Yeah, last Sunday.
You said there was toys and food and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, he said it's full of church. The church paid for all the people donated, of course, stuff like that.
Well, and that's where I'm at with a lot of these things is drop the deception.
Yeah.
If you can't afford it, don't act like you can't to get it for free, because they'll probably give it to you anyway. Be honest and be forthright.
I don't like the people that go get free stuff and lie about the situation.
But we're not talking about things like welfare problems.
No.
Not in this country.
No, not in this country. But we know of an individual that went to a place to get free food and said there's certainly people leaving in their house home and they're not really.
Again, I don't say this in judgment, but if you have to deceive in order to achieve, probably better not.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain things, on a moral level, err on the side of caution. I always told my daughter growing up, if you don't know for sure what my answer will be, if you don't know if you should or should not do something, don't do anything.
No.
Always err on the side of caution.
Right. And something we did say, we were talking about the whole supporting the holidays and stuff like that. We support them, we just don't do like
y'all celebrate them in the manner that y'all celebrate.
Right.
Them. You don't follow the traditions of
the American.
Well,
Well, Halloween we don't touch at all.
Yeah, Halloween you can have it.
Right.
And Easter.
That's not one we do at all.
Well, my thing.
We don't even touch the candy. That's how bad it is.
Well, I mean, I
Although
do.
the candy's good.
I do collect the Reese's tags.
Mama.
Yeah.
Not going to lie there, but she's grown out of that, so now I have to start buying Reese's.
Oh darn.
I
And she still looks good. She probably could get by with it for a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
We were,
crazy.
we were sitting with little Debbie yesterday, and they had Valentine's going on already. I'm like, not even January. She goes, I want to try them. I said, okay,
Yeah, weird how that happens, isn't it?
yeah. We don't celebrate that with these, but hey,
Right.
we want to try the cakes that we hadn't tried yet.
Well,
But no, they're, go ahead.
they were cordial. They were cordial cherry. They were like moon pies, but with cordial cherry filling in it. And it actually tastes like the cherries, the chocolate covered cherries. That's what it tastes like in the middle.
And you would not like to trust me.
Not at all.
Yeah, if you have some, just bring them over.
Well, I believe you because
I'll
I
make
don't
sure-
like the cordial cherries.
Okay, I'll get rid of it for you.
I appreciate that.
We had to hide it from the boys. They didn't know we had it. He goes, where'd you get that from? I said, they get in place.
Right.
Yeah.
I
I like having
Hi.
I like having adult money because you can hide stuff like that. Oh, there she is. Hey, Grace.
I apologize in advance that she will probably be interrupting a lot. She can see herself on there.
She'll turn her head sideways, start walking like this,
Right.
tippy toe, and I'm like, "What are you
She
doing?"
poses.
Yeah, she's a nut.
No, when my daughter was little, if she walked past the mirror, whatever thought was gone. You know, because she had to stop and look at herself, check herself out on the way by. I don't know what it is. I don't know if women ever grow out of that. I don't, you know, we'll have to ask the overreach one.
Hi.
It depends on the woman, I guess.
Here.
I think the last time she looked in the mirror was
Here.
Might depend on the mirror
Thursday
too.
when she straightened her hair.
Yeah.
You know, very well might depend on the mirror. Because if it's got a nice hand carved wooden frame, I'll stop and look in it.
Here.
Oh, that is an ugly picture in that beautiful frame.
I mean, it depends on the woman, I guess. I mean, I'm not, big on,
Oh, I'm just picking.
I mean, even when I brush my hair, half the time it's not even in the mirror. I mean, it's just, depends on the woman.
Hi.
That it does. That it
God
does.
don't look at he's not worried about my outside appearance. He's worried about what's inside.
That's it, right there.
So that's the kind of way I look at it. I'm a very plain Jane. I'm not a fancy person. And, that's just me.
Hi.
Yes, she is.
Hi.
She's the cheapest ever. We're gonna make a Happy Meal. She's happy.
Well,
Oh,
you ought
they
to be
can't-
with a Happy Meal. You get a toy.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
She moved my laptop. I didn't do that.
Well, yeah.
So
You have-
back on topic. I done forgot where we're going with this.
We were talking about the holidays. And
God said to, I remember this right, not person, but not really hating her. Don't
I hate to sin
yeah,
the
hate to
person.
say it. And I know you don't like the word hate.
Here.
Raise the person.
La.
And a lot of people don't understand that when we're talking like, hey, we don't do that. Why not? Because it's a sin. And I heard somebody say recently they were a Christian. Oh, yeah? What kind of church do you go to? I don't. Oh, we don't either. But, and I said, of course, we got to talking. And I said, what are your beliefs? He said, he believes that pigs is good food and cows good eating. I'm like,
I'm not going to argue with them.
and it's like, I don't know how to respond to that because where's the buffet at?
Yeah.
And he's just like, I'm a firm believer, and I said, yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm a firm believer in Jesus. That's where we're at.
Right.
now, we may not attend in a church building, but we still do church.
Well, there's a lot of shall we say misconception about it.
Yeah.
As believers, we do need to make an attempt to be around like-minded believers. Basically. but it's also a what is the word I'm looking for?
Accountability.
Yeah, the accountability, the checks and balance. Um, now do you necessarily have to go to XYZ church and this
It
specifically don't?
it's about fellowship.
Well, like I said, there's many levels that, you know, yeah, it's fellowship to get teaching that you're not going to get on your own,
Yeah,
because the pastor is supposed to act as a shepherd.
right.
Um, now are you under their direct authority? I have to go with no, but a lot of pastors aren't going to like it.
I feel like their authority comes from God, not from the church.
Well, I heard if my there's a pretty famous preacher that I catch videos of. I can't remember it. Um, but somebody in the church asked him this very question. Um, like, do we have to listen? He said the word comes first, God comes first. He said, it is me delivering the message. You know, he has no authority that God has not granted him, so
Right.
to speak, but
Right.
he had no direct authority over his congregation. Now, I'm assuming, as far as church politics, he probably does have a say in the matter because some churches, the pastor is the president, so to speak. Other churches, the pastor is more of a teacher, a hired teacher, and the deacons and elders kind of handle the ruling, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I'm using those terms very lightly. Um, you get into Catholicism, there's a whole hierarchy of government, and I'm not even touching that because I ain't got time. Um, but when you get down to it, we are all under direct authority from God.
Yep.
Um, now, I'm not going to say that it is our job to specifically buck the pastor. He is in a position of authority. Okay.
Right.
And if he's doing something he ought not to, if he's teaching a false message, there are very specific reasons to ignore, argue with, not listen to, or even remove. Okay. Um, but at the same point in time, they do not have direct controlled authority over you as an individual. It's not parent child like, hey, go take out the trash. You don't have to take out the trash, you know. Um, and you're not going to get demerits or punishment or, it doesn't work that way. And I think a lot of people believe that it does. No, it really doesn't. Um, before, when I was kind of testing out the church that I've been going to, me and the pastor had some of these chats. I was like, I'll tell you flat out, I do not believe in the doctrine of the pastor's always right, by default. I was like, I have a hard time with that.
And he'll admit to that too.
Yes, and I can't say that I've specifically disagreed with him on anything. And that's a cautionary note too. I don't want to find a church where they're just telling me what I want to hear. I want to learn, I want to grow. But I also have powers of reason, and I have a memory. And I told them flat out, it's like, you have to be careful because if you tell me this verse means this, and then 6 months later you tell me that very same verse means something else, I'll remember, and it'll flag a red flag, and we're going to have headbutting happening,
Right. Yeah.
And he's honest enough that no, if I say that, I want you to tell me. Like, yes, sir. Because
We went to a church recently where we could tell it was scripted.
I don't like that.
No, and then they actually scripted the prayer too.
I really don't
And
like that.
that rubbed both of us the wrong way. We're like, we can see her praying. She's looking up, and I'm like,
Right.
oh, you just ruined it because we were enjoying worship. course, then the preacher had a good message. We'll give him that.
Yeah, there's certain things that, and I'm speaking for me as an individual. I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm not saying good or bad, holy or unholy. I'm not saying any of that. Just personal preference. Some of these churches that have multiple services, like like a 7:30 service, then maybe a 9 o'clock service, or when they have back-to-back services. On one hand, I think it is great that they have enough attendees that they actually have to break it up. That they don't have a building big enough that will fit all of their attendees. I think that part is fantastic. But I have a hard time if it's the same pastor giving the same message
Right.
3 times, because the first time you could call inspired, but the other 2 are simply on repeat. Now, if you had it set up with associate pastors where basically they all shared the same notes, but it wasn't scripted. It's like, we're going over this and these are the notes, but preach it the way you would preach it.
Right.
Okay. I can deal with that unless God specifically, if the Holy Spirit leads one of them, it's like, yeah, we're supposed to do this today, but God said, hey, do what God said. My other problem with that type of setup is it's all set to a clock and a schedule. And in my experience with what I would call Bible believing, but spirit, God has no care what the clock on the wall says. He doesn't care if you get to the buffet on time.
Right.
When the spirit moves, the spirit moves. And if you're worried about the clock, you're the one quenching the spirit.
Yep.
And that I will say. And if that rubs wrong or offends, read your book.
Yep. Our preacher don't care. He just lets the Holy Spirit take over. You get there when you get there.
I was in a service. It's in a local enough church. They're within a 30-minute circle from the location. The pastor I really like, and I'm not saying the church name. I'm not saying the pastor's name, because I just don't roll like that. He had been known, and he's really more of a teacher than a preacher. You know what I mean? He does. And he brings the cookie jar down off the top of the fridge where the rest of us can get our hand in there. And I really like that. He had been known to run over a little bit. Like, service always started at this time, give or take, worship. But you didn't get out by 11:30 or 12 o'clock. You got out within a 15 to 30 minute window, plain and simple. And if he didn't have much to say, you got out early. Like, he didn't just rattle to fill out the clock. But there was a time I went up there, just from the soreness of my butt from sitting in the seat. I knew that we had run over, but I refused to look at a clock. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We got it.
It's okay.
I'm like, just thinking in my head, like, well, he probably run, 30, 45 minutes over. About 3 hours.
Wow.
And never, like, we knew it was longer than normal, but would have never guessed it. I was surprised. I'm like, he needs to do that every Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm like, if he can preach a message that good that you don't realize how long it's actually been.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll sit through that. I'll bring my own cushion.
Yeah.
I'll be rude and sit on the edge. That way I can stand up and let my butt grin there for a minute. But that's what we need.
That's when you know it's a good message, when you can't tell how long it's been.
Absolutely.
It's been 30 minutes. No, it's only 3 hours. What?
The same preacher I accused of having one of his, I don't want to say underlings, but a representative of the church would come out and visit you if you filled out the visitor card and all that. I accused him of bugging the house You know, and I'm not lying. I flat out accused him of bugging the
Because
house
it's preaching stuff that you're struggling with.
and stared at me when he brought it up. I'm like, y'all smell barbecue? That's my rear end. You know,
You talking to me? Yes, Lord.
yeah. Are you sitting there naked eating a bag of, you know?
Cheetos and beanbag chair.
Right. Maybe. But no, you know, he and I haven't been in years, and I have seen the gentleman through well, I think the last time I seen him it was a funeral. Like I said, great guy. I got pointed, God pointed me in a different direction, you know, but I loved that church. A little bigger than I personally cared for,
Right.
you know, but I'm not going to knock the church down at all. But I honestly, and I know people that go that if he was preaching a false message, I can't see these individuals going. You know, I can't. I'm around them too often. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that, and like I said, I'm not advertising for that church or the pastor. That's why I haven't said who and what. But that's the way it needs to be. You know, it doesn't need to be on your time frame. Now, I do think punctuality, you know, it needs to start at whatever time you say it should start. I've played on worship team for almost a decade at various stages. Sometimes the spirit moves and it just doesn't care what you had planned. The other church, you know, it seems to be, you know, when you get out of the hymnal, stand up, sit down, hymnal, do this, stand up, hymnal again. You know, when you get out of that scheduling routine, a lot of the churches, I would say, do anywhere from 3 to 5 songs. Then you do your message and whatever church business needs to be done. You might do one at the end, you might not. Go home.
Right.
I can remember more than once. We got to the last song. The people were praising. Some of them were, you know, head back, hands up. Some of them were face down. Who knows? You know, like if they start squalling, I turn around because I can't deal with that.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, you know, like I can't emotionally deal with that. I'll start squalling. I can remember once I would easily say we played worship for like 2.5 going on 3 hours. And if that's what God wants,
Bet you it felt good.
it did. Now my fingers actually bled on that one. And I'm not trying to exaggerate. I get real dry skin.
Yeah.
And you know, but so be it. And that's the way I've seen it. Like my hand hurts. So be it. You know, I'll do that every day if that's what God wants. You know. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't know that my hand could actually handle it, but by choice, I'll do it. But we are. I mean, is this related to the topic?
In a way, I mean,
It's just showing how
Direction you want
different
it to
beliefs.
go. Right.
different beliefs, different church setups, you know, just because one church does it one way doesn't mean that it's necessarily wrong or right.
Right.
You know, like the church that I say we attend, we watch it online a lot. I mean, their normal worship service is 2 to 3 hours long. That's normal.
Yeah.
Worship. Worship.
Yeah.
That's just the worship service. That's not the preaching.
Yeah. I'm good with that. Yeah.
You know, but you know, like you said, there are some that have their set time limits too.
Well, my thing is if you can relax some of the formality that simply does not have to be there. Like for instance, if your church regularly has 2 to 3 hours of worship and then at least another hour of preaching, don't get uptight if somebody eats a snack cake. You know what I mean? Like they're hungry. Give them the word, let them have their little Debbie and go, you know, mind your business.
They pass out free waters, you know.
Right.
But don't clip
You
your
know.
toe.
No, because you shouldn't even have an ashtray to put them in.
Oh, they weren't in the ashtray. They're all over the floor.
Really?
Yes. And
Nice.
they were the person kind of at our old church. He clipped toenails throughout the whole service, and you can hear the nail clip. And we got up, and they were still on the floor.
All right. You know, as a general rule, I'm going to agree, don't do that. However, if your toenails look like you could swoop down out of the sky and get your meal out of a body of water, trim your damn toenails.
But do it at home.
But do it at home, not in the middle of church. I mean,
Honestly, if your toenails look like that, do it wherever you're at.
But the funny story is, the preacher thought someone was clicking their pen
Oh,
this whole time. He's like, "Who's ever clicking a pen needs to stop." But they didn't stop.
right.
Because it
Well, it
wasn't
wasn't
big.
clicking the pen.
In this same church, you're talking about, they have 2 services. They have 2 songs, welcome, 2 songs. They don't preach it. It's
Right.
all set time. I mean, there's one point in time they're going,
Right. Yeah. Now, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, now it's different when you have a specific, you know, the church knows we're having church, but there's a funeral service at 1:30.
that makes sense.
Right. Right. But beyond that, no, don't be looking at your clock. The church and the current church I attend, he doesn't care one way or the other.
No.
The other church I attended, the pastor would say the same thing. Like, if I go too long and you've got to go, go.
Yep.
You know, like, you're not obligated to sit there because I'm talking. If you have an appointment or, you know, whatever the case may be, if you got to go, go. Don't wait to be dismissed. Just go.
now I will say with that church, that with having the 2 services, and you said, they would preach, first one and then the second would be the same. Now he had a way somehow, almost
and-
every
yeah,
time.
something
The
did that.
second one would somehow be different first. Like he would say things that, and I always enjoyed watching, listening to both of them just because I would get something different out of each one.
And that I get it. It's the scripted aspect that I
Yeah,
want against.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
you typed it out how you're going to say it.
Right.
He would have
Uh-huh.
what did he call it? Bulletin or pinpoints, whatever, and you fill in the blanks. But both services, he'd say something different. And he would come up to me, goes, "Why didn't I think about that the first service?" Because God has to be different with this service.
Right.
Different
And-
people were watching the second time around too.
They needed to hear something different.
Well, there's that.
That was me most of the time.
Um, I'm passing this along like third or fourth hand, but years ago, long time ago, I was attending this church, and I was there with some other folks that had been going there for years, and something got brought up, and this preacher, he was a great guy, but he was a very elementary. It was the basic Christianity, and there is a place for that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking it, but I need more than that.
Yeah.
Like I'm a sponge. I'm going to soak. And I brought that up with these other folks. I'm like, does he ever go into depth? Because there's more that I'm just not getting. And they kind of looked down. It's like, I got curious because I've heard some of these sermons and then started taking notes. And it's like the first Sunday after January 1st will be this sermon. The next Sunday, it's like it's all on his. He's been preaching so many years, he already had his sermon. And, I'm like, it's great that he keeps his sermons and has notes. But if you have enough to do the year and funerals and birthdays and, you've got some extras in there for special occasions, if there's no new material coming, is he even reading his Bible?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not trying to knock that individual at all because I don't know where he was. But like I said, for me, the entry level elementary works for something that I don't know, because you got to start somewhere. But once you get to a point, like, I need more.
Right.
And I've brought similar conversations up to others, like, well, you should be reading your Bible. I'm like, yeah, the problem is that I'm also supposed to be being taught and fed. And if I'm learning more on my own, then who am I supposed to ask questions to? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they won't know the answer, but it's the optics of it, I guess. I'm like, if I'm learning more reading it myself, what do I need them for? And I know I shouldn't say it that way. I shouldn't think about it that way, but that's exactly how I do.
Right.
Which, fine, maybe I'm wrong, but it is what it is, and God will deal with me
Yeah.
and deal with he will.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
I have no illusions of,
Well, we have teachers for a reason, and that's because they know more than us, or they're supposed to.
and I won't, like I have heard pastors kind of give the same sermon again, and I won't fuss because there might be somebody out there that didn't hear the first one. I get it. But if it's on a rotating schedule, I need more than that.
Yeah.
And I've heard people say, well, you need to go to Sunday school. It's not that I disagree, but not everybody can make Sunday school. For a lot of people, the only church they get is the one time that they get there. They have a different schedule, and maybe they should free it up, but needs must. And and that's where I'm at with it, is that's between them and God.
Yeah.
But whatever, and for most of us, the Sunday morning service is the bread and butter. That's where we get our main dose, so to speak. That needs to be a banquet. That does not need to be cheese and crackers.
Right.
Now I fully agree. We need to be reading the Bible daily on our own.
Yeah.
That there's so much of that we need to be doing. We can't lay that at the pastor's feet, like, hey, you need to feed me for all week. Because pastor's going to look at you and say, look up manna in Leviticus and see how So, like I get it, but at the same point, from a teaching aspect, whatever service you attend, I mean, that needs to be your bread and butter.
Well, ultimately, at the end of the day, our relationship with God is just that, our relationship. It's not our pastors, it's not our husbands or, whatever. It is our personal relationship. Yes, they're supposed to help guide us and teach us and give us the tools so we can study on our own. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what we put in is what we get out.
Yes. And like I said, I'm not one that I wouldn't tell people to leave a church unless there are real circumstances. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do not agree with the policy of stopping, so to speak, because generally, and not every time, but generally, what you find there is people are looking for a message. Basically, they're looking for their beliefs coming out of somebody else's mouth. That's not correct.
No.
Okay. But I will say, if you are attending and you're reading on your own and you still feel like you're not getting fed, you need to pray over it, because it might be time to, level up, so to speak.
Well,
And I'm not even saying that all of these pastors are bad or even entry level, but you might find somebody that'll tell you the exact same thing worded differently. And then that light bulb clicks.
Yeah.
You were saying,
you have to remember also, like, not every church, there's no church that's going to be like perfect to your standards. It's just not.
No.
Every church is gonna have some things in it that you're not gonna like. So you kind of have to look at, for us, we walked away from a church we went to for a decade. And that was the hardest decision for us. It was not easy, and it really broke our hearts to do it.
No,
Uh,
I've had to leave a church before. It's not an well, crapola. I
but we had to look at
I can, but I can't hear what anybody else is saying.
what we were seeing, the things that we were seeing versus what, the Bible was teaching, and were they lining up?
Well, and that's the thing, and you do, anytime one of those red flags come up, you do need to stop and like, is it me?
Yeah.
Like, am I seeing this wrong? Am I interpreting it wrong?
Yes.
You
And,
know, go ahead.
but when it's a repeat thing,
Well, but again, always double check to make sure
oh well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it took us 3-4 years after starting to first see those little things. We're like, I don't know about this. It took 3 or 4 years and a lot of prayer for us to make that decision.
No,
And
I get it.
so there are circumstances, I believe, where you do need to, and we can go back to the seasons. There's a time and a place for what, and we talked about this. I forget the Bible verses exactly, but there's a time for joy. There's a time for grief. There's a time for
We discussed that very verse about a week ago.
Yeah.
Where was it?
I can't remember where it was at. Ecclesiastes, maybe.
Yeah.
I want to say Ecclesiastes 3.
Because it was going along with my blog post. Me and you were talking about it. I bet you I can find it. I bet you I still have it. But I think it was on Messenger. But I think it was Ecclesiastes, but I don't remember. Don't hold me to that. But I don't want to be wrong on that.
Well, give me just a second.
That's what I was looking to see. Yes, Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1-8.
I knew she'd find it about the time I got there.
Yep. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. So, there are times, I mean, like you were saying, you're in that church setting for a season. And then once you get where you're not going any further with it and you need to be stimulated more, you need, your hunger for more, you may have to move on somewhere else so you can get that growth that you need.
Well, and I'm also going to throw a caveat on that one. We need to keep in mind and understand as believers that, when Jesus was getting ready to die, he could have done a lot of things, but he was washing feet.
Yeah.
Us going to church isn't just about getting fed.
Right.
You need to serve.
Yes.
And a lot of times that's where it's at in the church is if you're not, I tell people a lot of times you will get what you're looking for when you become what you're looking for.
Yes.
If you want to be loved, you need to show love.
Yeah.
And in the church, we all need to be looking for a way to serve.
Oh, yeah.
And if you only see people on Sunday morning, it's hard. It's actually real easy to see who's serving in the church building, but if you don't know about the mission script, the prayer meetings, the Bible studies, blah, blah, blah. So be real careful making that judgment call. But I would add the caveat that if you feel like you're not getting fed and maybe the time has come to move on, you need to check your service also.
Yeah. Yes.
Because a lot of times that's exactly where you get fed is through your service.
Yeah.
Well, and when you're serving, you're more invested in that church as well.
Right.
You are. And for us, for our situation, we had both been serving for years. So it wasn't,
And that's why I throw that out there is, okay, if you need to get fed, are you serving? And if you're doing what you believe God has you supposed to be doing, and you're still not getting fed, then, you need to address the issue or at least visit it and entertain the issue.
Right.
And like I said, it's a hard thing, especially in service, because I would say in a different life at a different church. I stayed for a long period of time because I didn't want, and it wasn't the like the me serving aspect. It was the service in and of itself. You know, like I felt like I need to be going, like on a personal level, but it was, I mean, how do you really describe it? Um, I knew there was a need for what was being done. That makes sense. And I
Yeah.
hated to create a need. If that-
I know for me, serving was healing for me.
Yeah,
It really was to be able to give back and to, that helped heal parts of me that had been broken and I felt like had been just ripped away from me. And I know that sounds selfish and it's not meant to be selfish, but I feel like, Jesus taught serving for a reason.
well, there was, now I have felt a calling on my life for over a decade to be in the worship service. Now, I don't want to sing. Nobody wants me to sing. And I'm good with that because I'm number one on I don't want to sing. Um, but as far as playing and whatnot, now I fully get that not everybody on an individual, not all musicians can play together, and not every church has a need for 15 guitar players or 12 drummers or whatever the case may be. And I get that, but that was about the other half of the conversation I had with current pastors. I need to serve, but more specifically, I need to serve in this capacity. Um, if y'all have if we can make that work, great. If y'all are good on that, hey, that's great too. But I've got to find somewhere where I can do what God's put on me.
Right.
Mhm.
And don't take that like an ultimatum. Like I'm only coming here if I get to do, it. And I told him it's not like that, but I have to answer to God first.
Right.
Yep.
And he's like, no, I mean, if God's told you that, then who am I to argue with you? And that's my thought. Unless God tells you something completely different, let's just all do what God said, and it'll be all right.
It's funny because since we have stepped away from the church building, so to speak,
Right.
because the church we attend is, almost 3 hours away. It's a far drive, so we try to make it when we can. And an opportunity come up for me to volunteer for a place that actually helps the community, and they were needing people for Saturdays, and I'm like, well, guess what? Saturday's the only day I can help. So I started volunteering, and I've only volunteered 2 months because they're only open one Saturday a month.
Right.
But I've talked to them about opening up twice a month and me doing both, and then seeing how it works, and maybe building up to where I do it every Saturday. I don't know, but I told Ken, I was like, or DJ, I was like, I needed that. I didn't realize how much I needed that.
Go ahead.
Well, he's got DJ up there. People who don't know us, we're not going to know who that is. So,
I know, I'm just making it.
but I was like, I didn't realize how much I needed that to give back like that, and how much difference that has made just in the couple of times I've been there for myself.
Serving makes a world of difference, especially if you have the right heart. There is that passage in James about saved versus works and so on and so forth and all that. And while that is a completely different sermon, if you want to work the coffee bar at church, because it's a public position, so you can be seen or whatever the case may be. I'm sure there is a need for somebody to run the coffee bar at church, but your heart's not in the right place.
Yeah.
If you are one of those people that like doing volunteer work, so you can be seen doing volunteer work, you need to stay your butt at home. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, if you're approaching it with the wrong attitude, now don't get me wrong, once or twice, hey, go for it, do it. Maybe you'll have a change of heart. But
If it's about the title, then it's not the right reason.
we years ago, you know, smaller churches have a hard time finding people that can play music. I had a lady approach me. She is my senior. Okay, I'm not going to throw an age out there, but she's older than I am. We got done with church one day, and she came up to the stage like, I used to lead worship at another church. I can play the piano. I can read music. I sing a little bit. I do not want to lead, but if y'all need help, I'll think about it. And I thought, I just scratched my head, and I'm like, you're exactly what I want up here. I want somebody up here who does not want to be up here.
Yeah.
You know, because at that point, I know they're not doing it for ego.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
She was up there next week. You know. And bless her heart, love her to death. Love her to death. We still kind of keep in touch. You know, of course, the church was kind of in the middle of both our houses. I drove half an hour in one direction, and she was almost a half an hour on the other side.
Okay.
And when I want to say it was maybe their son started attending church. He started attending 20 minutes the other way for them. So to show support, they started going to church out there. Hey, no, do what you got to do. But no, I mean, great people. But that's exactly what I was looking for. I can do this, but I don't want to be up here. Well, guess what? Front of the row.
Yeah.
You know, because I've dealt with ego. You know,
It's fun.
it has no place in a worship service.
No, we had a couple of those at the previous church. You could tell they were going against each other during worship.
Yeah. You know, there is no room for pride, ego, arrogance. You know, I'm the best. It's not even a performance.
At me.
You know, and that's what's different is if you play on stage in any other setting, at the park, at a bar, in front of 20,000 people, it is not the same as playing worship at a church.
No.
It is not the same.
No.
You know, and it is a mental thing. Like I could be happy if I had enough cord to be back behind a curtain somewhere where nobody can see me. You know. But I also try not to draw attention. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, because it's not about me. It's about service. It's about God.
Yeah.
But yeah,
She's singing.
I don't blame her. If I could,
Well, the flip side to that also is if you feel like God's calling you to serve somewhere, don't let anyone discourage you from doing it.
I would say you do need to double check to make sure it's God, not ego.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. But you've got some that, they know that is their calling. And then you get, people that are like, well, I just don't think you're the right fit for that. We are not to judge people's callings. I'm just saying.
I do agree, but I don't like it in a black and white. Because like I said, I've had people that they want to lead worship but really can't sing. Okay. And after several trials, it's hard to hear. Okay.
Well, a one and a calling is two different things, though.
I'm not disputing that. There are folk that are called to the mission field.
Yep.
But most missions make you go through 1 or 2 years worth of service and what before you ever get to go wherever the heck it is that you're supposed to go. And there's a certain amount of that that I agree with and understand because let's face it, uh, a college age, well, at our age, I'm going to say child, a college age child is probably not prepared to just pack up and go to, I don't know, current Nigeria or South Sudan. You know, they probably need some prep work.
Right.
For something that extreme, but no, start out small. If you feel the need to serve at a soup kitchen, yeah, don't let anybody tell you different. You know, uh, and it's not that I specifically disagree with what you're saying, but there are circumstances where I believe that there is a certain amount of preparedness needs to be at least looked into. And I totally get the God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the call. I totally get that too. So again, I would say it's kind of a judgment call. I have heard pastors tell stories of, well, I've had people come to me and it's like, hey, I'm being called to the mission field. Well, let's talk about this. Well, I can agree with the talking about this to see if that's what God's actually saying, but I can disagree on the, well, let's see. How do you word it? If the pastor is trying to interject themselves between you and God, that's where I have a problem. If he's trying to make sure that you are for real, I'm good with that.
Right.
No,
absolutely.
Because they should. He's the shepherd. Well, the one we have here on earth.
Yeah.
So like I said, I agree with that. But if it's well, we're going to have a hard time finding somebody to fill your shoes. That's not our problem.
Right. God said do it, you do it.
Right.
Yeah. And that was my point. If God says,
yes, I'm with you.
Do not argue with him. You do it, and don't let anybody talk you out of it because that's between you and God. That was my whole,
Sure right.
Yes, and don't talk yourself out of it either. I'm just saying. I don't know why I would bring that up.
Well, here's the funny part. If God is telling you to do something and you talk yourself out of it, we all know that's temporary.
Yeah.
Let's just get that part out of the way.
Yeah.
Do we always do what God tells us to do the first time? We rarely do what God tells us to do.
A lot of us are like Jonah.
We're going to stomp our feet. We're going to argue. We'll probably whine some. And for some of us, somewhere in there, we'll go ahead and start doing it, but we're going to gripe and complain about it the whole time, just out of spite. But we're going to do it.
The number one response is, God, are you sure you're talking to the right person?
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking to me?
See, I feel a mixture of Moses and Jonah in that.
Well, Moses, both of those are very good stories because Moses, on one hand, he really just didn't want no part of it. Like he was having problems with his belief and faith to begin with. But then the stuttering, everything else. He did run from the situation, but a lot of it was more on a personal level. I can't lead these people. I can't speak for him. He doubted himself as much as he doubted what God was telling him.
Yeah.
Jonah is a completely different story. Jonah, I want you to go to tell these people that I'm going to destroy the city if they don't change their ways. Jonah says, Why?
Destroy them.
I don't like them. You don't like them. Go. Let's get it over with.
Mhm.
You know, like, I'll bring the matches and hot dogs.
Let's go.
You know, and God said, "No, I want to tell them first." Jonah's like, "You're wasting time. We both know how this ends. You know, I don't want to go over there. They already hate us. You know." He's like, "You're sending me in to be slaughtered."
Yeah. Beehive.
You know, you know, like there's a meme floating around that's well, I'm not going to read that on, but it's basically Cat Williams and made it to the Jonah story. It's like
Yes.
Jonah's running in the other direction, and God's looking down. He's like, "You know, I can see you, right?"
Yeah.
And there's a lot of truth to that. You know, like how often are we running from God like He don't know where we're going?
Yeah, like
Right.
make you trip.
Right.
See that rock right there? No, you do now. It's just like, God calling us and we argue with them. And it applies to me pretty good with the podcast. I argue with for what, 2 months?
Yeah.
She says, talk to this person, talk to that person. First, one person kept on popping in my mind, and her mind was you.
The only person I said was him.
Yeah. And I'm like, I just don't know how I can do it. I just,
No, you were saying it right. I
Yeah.
don't know if I can deal with that.
yeah.
Stop it.
And then we prayed about it. We talked about it. And that's when it texted me. I'm like,
Right.
I was like, Chris will be perfect for this. He's knowledgeable. He likes to talk. I mean, in the same situation for me, I mean, how long did I put off what I was doing?
we need to show our followers what God's doing and Mrs. Besides that little munchkin beside her.
Right.
Yeah, she's messing with the cat and laughing about it. He's just like, touch me, I don't care. So, yeah, okay, here. If you can't see it, can you? There we go.
So she made a coloring book, and we are producing through Amazon.
It's a storybook coloring book. It actually has a story in it too.
Okay, so
So it's a storybook with coloring pages in it.
we are currently in the process of creating a secondary web page for that, and we're going to for not advertise, but we're going to share it both on web page and Facebook, TikTok, distribute. That's the word.
Now, this is, I want to say, this is not for me promoting myself by no means, because, yeah, this is way out of my comfort zone for sure. Ouch.
Yeah, me too. I like
So
being
this is all about sharing. Sorry, I'll explain in a minute. This is all about spreading God's words, and it starts with the little ones.
It does. There's
Yeah, it's Chris.
Hi.
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 Hi. You know, like I see people make ridiculous claims of, well, you shouldn't teach children religion. You need to wait until they get old enough to be exposed and make that decision for themselves. And my thought on that is, are you also going to limit their exposure to everything that is non-religious until they make that choice?
right.
Because if you're not, you're exposing them to your religion.
Yep.
You know, so what's the difference? Yeah, other than you approve of yours and not mine.
Right.
And
Don't get me wrong, I agree. I approve of mine and not yours. You know, I think that's fair. But
and as Christians, we're to follow what the Bible teaches, and the Bible teaches that fathers are supposed to what?
Lead the home.
I mean, depends on specifically where you're at with that.
It's supposed to raise your children up in the ways of the Lord. There's a Bible verse for that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make, you know, because there's more, you know, like spare the rod, child.
Oh, well, yeah. And I think one of them says beat the child, but we don't really condone beating.
translation and where you're at, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Hello.
but no, I mean, there's a lot of instruction for fathers and men in general, and there's some for the ladies, you know, like we discussed a lot of that, I don't know, a month or two, 3 ago, you know. So yeah, that's why I was asking, you know.
Yeah, I think, and if I'm remembering correctly, now you know how my memory is. It says to raise your children up in the ways of the Lord, so when they are old enough, they will continue down that path. I'm paraphrasing here. They will
Honestly,
know.
remember, you're actually pretty close.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I do want to say that's probably verbs could be a
Not
song.
me. But it says you know, it was when they get older, they basically will continue down that path and they will know right from wrong. Basically, is what it's saying. But I don't remember the verse.
Searching right now.
You got attacked by the stamp, didn't you?
Yes.
Did she find another one?
No, it's the same one from earlier.
Okay, I made that one disappear. I mean, it's supposed to teach a child to do things. I mean, she's 2 years old, and she wants to pray with us. She'll tell us to pray
Right,
at 2
right.
years old.
As soon as we start saying, "Dear Lord," she's like, "Amen."
Amen. Yeah, she's already done. Okay, I'm done. What you got? Amen.
Well, I mean, once Lord come out, you got the important part out of the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Proverbs 22:6.
Yeah, I know. I was looking.
That's quite.
I'm just faster at it. Sorry.
Well, you was talking.
I was talking while I was doing it.
I wasn't interrupting.
He was though. Says train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
Yeah.
And it's often paired with Ephesians 6:4. Do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. So that it teaches us that we're supposed to teach the children at a young age.
You know, there is that, and it instructs the children to honor their father and their mother.
Mhm.
And then in Ephesians it says, "Do not provoke your children to anger." Are those two statements contradictory, or you know, because people will say that they're contradictory, or is there a certain manner where there is a certain, you know, if your parents are certainly honorable, then you shouldn't disrespect them. But even if they are less than honorable, there should still be a certain standard, you know, at least some modicum of not being specifically disrespectful, I would say. But on the flip side, don't provoke your children to anger. There has to be context there because they're going to get angry when you discipline them. They're going to get upset when you tell them no.
Yeah.
All
That's
right.
not what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like being told no.
But also that goes with who you ask
It does.
and their religion.
Oh, yeah.
You're Catholic, you're getting
But that's not what that verse is meaning either. I mean, it's
Right.
basically saying don't bully your children. Don't
oh,
call them names. Don't put them down. Don't. I mean, we are to discipline and love, not.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's why I said there has to be context
Yeah.
there because you are going to do the right thing and pick up your kid.
Yeah.
You know, because we don't like being corrected.
No.
if you're making them mad, it means you're doing your job.
Well, depends. You know, like if you're standing there and like, I'm not touching you, you know.
Our kids wouldn't do that.
I mean, I do it to mine,
They do it all the time to each other. What are you talking about?
but you know, like I said, that there is context, so it's not simply don't aggravate your kid.
Hi. Hi.
Don't
Hi.
ridicule them. Hi. Hi.
It means when you're getting on to them and you're disciplined, you don't call them stupid or cuss them out or,
I do think it goes farther, like we've all seen them
don't
movies,
belittle them.
like you're an adult, but your mom pulls out your baby pictures in front of a bunch of strangers.
Uh-oh.
I wonder if she pushed a button.
Well, let's continue on. What happened?
Hi.
Oh,
So we have no video for the missus, but there's still sound coming through.
Hi. Hi.
For the detail one.
She hit the side button.
oh, that turned the camera off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to get the camera back on.
You pushed the button again.
Stop touching.
Why?
Because I said.
Mm.
She said, oh.
See,
This is the no touching zone.
this is why we can't beat our kids.
Why you can't or why you should.
oh, yes.
Whatever. I'll
But-
fix it.
Where's the nerd at?
Uh,
Oh, no.
it says to touch the camera. There is no camera.
Slide button on side of the laptop, maybe. Oh, I love kids. I love my kids.
Kids are great.
Yeah.
I mean, and they truly are. They are a blessing.
Yes.
It is a trying time. It is. There's going to be ups and downs.
No, I don't want to remove myself.
It was,
Nope. That
um,
didn't do it.
there was a comedian years ago who made the comment like, "You get a newborn and everything is great." And like, "Oh, did you make a little poo-poo?" He's like, and God has a sense of humor. It's about 2 or 3 weeks later, it gets its smell. And I remember that because like the first several changes are, well, this is weird. It's different, but this is manageable. And then it turns into the stuff they put on the road before they tar it. And then after that, how can somebody the size of a squirrel make such a crap?
Yeah.
Like you're this big and you just crap like a grown man that's been to a 3-day buffet bender. Like, wow. Of course, I guess if I'd been holding it for 9 months, I'd crap too.
Yeah.
But they are a blessing, and it's I've said a lot over the years that when I found out I was going to be a father, not ready to be a father.
None of us are.
Well, no, I mean I was not. I didn't want to be a child at that time. I was literally not
Oh,
ready.
there she is.
I figured it out.
Was it a button?
Yeah, there was a button on the bottom of the screen that has a camera on it. It got clicked somehow. Or when she put my laptop to sleep by hitting the button on the side, and it shut my camera off.
We can still hear you.
It's crazy. It just turned my camera off. Is all it did.
Where was
I done forgot.
the child thing? Like I was not ready to become a
Oh,
parent.
yeah. That's
Uh,
it.
Yet at the same point in time,
Get it.
once the reality set in, I can tell you flat out, walking away was not, giving it up was not an option. Abortion was not an option.
Right.
I'm not going to go into, not going to word it all like, well, I was raised where. I'm not saying all that. What I am saying is, for me, manning up was the option. Actually, it wasn't optional. This is what you got to do. I don't know. Like I said, I will say flat out, I was not ready. It's not that I didn't want to be. I just didn't want to then.
Right.
I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't go back and redo it. I don't regret, you know, and it hasn't always been easy. It's been trying at times, and some of that has to do with the child in and of itself. Because let's face it, teenagers. Um, but some of it is, I mean, parenthood's hard, you know. Um, but I wouldn't change. I mean, it's such a blessing, you know. I made the comment recently. Hey,
Yeah, you're cute.
my cousin's father, and he put out, you know, like that heart wrenching about, you know, 'cause I guess they were close. And, you know, I've met him, but I mean, guys, so I could see where he was.
Yes, you're cute.
And you know, I made the comment
Yep, it's a circle.
outside of Christ, our memory living on is the closest thing to immortality we'll have.
Right.
You know, but at the same point in time, it is our lineage, you know, our descendants. You know, we're not going to live on forever. But if what we teach them makes an impact, then there's a part of us that can, you know, even though it's our bloodline, there is a part of us.
Yeah, you're cute.
You know, a lot of times we don't crap for a legacy. You know, we worry about the junk we're going to pass down, you know, or for that matter, all the junk we can spend on ourselves and we don't care if it gets passed down or not. No, the future really is in our children. You know?
No, you didn't.
We're just talking
I
about
think
that.
it is.
Didn't poop.
Well, that's good. But she will.
Yes.
She laid down beside me. She said, "Oh, grabbed her diaper." She said, "I pooped it." I said, "No, you didn't." She just smiled at me.
She might have floated an air biscuit.
And she keeps telling me she's cute.
Why?
Why? I don't know why. Why?
But no, our the future really is in the children.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a passage
Good
in
cat.
the New Testament where
Good cat.
Jesus was
No, it's
around speaking, and a group of children went to go to him, and some of the disciples were trying to, you know,
my
keep
tattoo.
the children off. And he's like, "No, let them through. That
My
child
tattoo.
faith is actually where we're all supposed to." You know, I remember my daughter. She would get up,
Sorry.
the couch, fell off, not at the couch, at the coffee table.
Hey. Sorry.
She never ever hit it.
Sorry.
She knew somebody would catch her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know, like when I hear about that childlike faith, that's kind of where my brain goes to now. Is that's what we're supposed to be like. We're not supposed to worry about our paycheck and the next meal and the next bill, and we're all this crap that, you know. And of course, our society has changed a lot since the time of Christ, but the principle's still the same.
She loves that dog more than me.
Yeah, I don't think you can get away with that.
No, I can't. It says stop. Anyway,
But you know,
Come get your dog.
we're not supposed to be worrying about all the crap that we're worrying about.
right.
You know, at
Lean
the
on God
same
for
point,
everything.
well, at the same point in time, we're not supposed to just lay around in the garden and eat strawberries and let somebody else do everything for us. You know, we are supposed to work. We are supposed to provide. We do have responsibility, but we're not supposed to worry and fret and fear, you know, over a lot of the crap that we do. And we're not supposed to put so much of our attention and focus on the things that we do.
Right.
You know, I mean, look, just, you know, and I'm not trying to hit anybody under the bus. Look at how much attention gets put on, well, I have to have that new car, or this, or that, or getting my nails done, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We put so much focus on things that aren't going to matter.
No.
Yeah, it's just really, you know,
What was that?
That was Abel. Didn't know I was gonna pick it up that loud, did you?
Put it back in the closet.
It's top. Daddy.
Yes, Daddy.
Hey, Daddy.
In the
Yeah.
back.
Daddy.
And then he's
So,
always making noises with his mouth.
so let's talk to the people in the back of the room that think religion doesn't matter.
it depends on how you define religion. All right.
Is it their religion or God's religion?
Again, it depends on how you define religion.
That
And
go well with this podcast.
the simple truth is, if you define religion as a belief system, then everybody, and especially if you have beliefs that are more like convictions, that it really doesn't matter what somebody else says, you're going to believe it regardless.
Right.
Then everybody has religion. You know, because there's some things, you know, like I don't care how atheist a person is. There are certain, and I don't care how intellectual they are. There are certain things where they have a belief that cannot be fully supported by fact or evidence, that they're not going to budge on.
Right.
Because it's what they believe, and no amount of evidence or proof is going to sway them, you know. And for some of them, it is the inexistence of God, you know. But if you define religion, you know, as
Little play. Little play.
the thing to me is that a lot of people
Abel.
think that they are atheists,
Little
think that they are not religious.
You don't need a puppy.
It would
Abel.
say that they are
Abel.
religion of anything that is affiliated with church, God, you know, whether it's monotheistic or multi-theistic, but anything to do with, you know, a higher moral standing or this and that, which, you know, if that's what they believe, you know, you really have to get down to the terms, but at the same point in time, tell me where government rates.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you're looking at government for your provider, you already have a God.
Right.
Tell me how, you know, which celebrity you believe every word they say. You might already have an idol.
Right.
You see where this is going?
Yep.
We humans, whether you want to believe in creation or evolution, there is something hardwired in us where we will worship something. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes.
It'll either be a deity, an idol, ourselves, money. You know what I'm saying? Status. We will worship something. Something will become our God. So for anybody to claim that they are not religious is using a very cherry-picked definition of the word. Okay. So is religion important? No.
No.
Actually, the world could do with a lot less religion. By that, I mean, and I'm going to say this delicately and yet harshly, the brain dead ritualistic traditions that get repeated and nobody really knows why. That makes sense?
Yeah.
You know, I mentioned earlier, and I say that because I grew up in a very traditional church. You come in, you stand up, you sit down. He says something, you stand up, you sit. It's a ritual. And you can set your watch by how Um, you know, it's always spot on time. It's scheduled. It's very synchronized. We don't need that.
Right.
Nobody needs that. Now, there's some people, they love having that kind of structure. Okay. Like I don't understand that. I'm going to let that one go because I don't understand it. I don't know what to tell them on the flip side.
But here's something that's funny. You said something about worship.
Right.
A friend of ours, it just happened to pop up that she posted on Facebook something,
Right.
and our preacher commented on it also. You have to read it later.
Okay.
One who believes they are in the kingdom of God, but worships the world is more deceived than the unbeliever.
I think I commented on that one.
Not yet. Not that I see.
The one I commented on was posted by a friend of ours. She would have been about 2 grades over us.
She on this long?
I don't know. But either way, she's local.
Yes.
And she posted something like written in white, black squared background. Yeah, I think it was the same thing. And yeah, I made a comment on there.
It's not. She might delete it. It's not there. Oh, hold on.
Um, it's very much true. The deceived
Well, that
don't.
was you.
Yeah. The deceived don't know that they're deceived, just like the crazy don't know they're crazy. The stupid think they're smart,
Right.
And nobody believes that they're wrong, and the hard part there is, A, how do you approach it? But B, if we go back to the atmosphere of the like 15 to 16 election and then coming into the 2020 election, this group of people would say that that group of people is brainwashed.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm not even pointing fingers, but my question has always been, okay, by making that comment, you're fully willing to believe that brainwashing not only exists, but is actively happening.
Yeah.
And they'll say, yes, because you are.
Yep.
Fine. How do you know it's not you?
Right.
Because that's a fair statement. Like if brainwashing actually takes place, are you smart enough and conscientious enough
to realize it,
to check yourself?
Yeah.
And it goes back to something that I say repeatedly till I'm tired of hearing it. If you can't explain to me and articulate why it is that you believe what you believe, you need to think about why you do.
What brought that on? Where did it come from? Where'd you learn it at?
Which part?
Why you believe the way you believe?
Right. Yeah, but no, you need to, like, okay, here's my argument. I've, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. I've heard people say that we need like nationalized health care, but less government. And I'm like, how are you going to accomplish that?
Right. Yeah.
Like I get the sentiment, I disagree on nationalized health care. I totally agree on less government, but without the disagreeing criticisms, you're not going to get one without the other. Everything the government sticks their hands in creates administrative levels and layers upon layers. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, look what they've done with the school system or anything.
Yeah.
Like how can you reconcile having these two ideas coexist simultaneously? It just you're not going to get that.
No, and not work together.
Well, let me rephrase. You're not going to get that outside of a monarchy or a dictatorship. Because that's how you'll get less government, as far as less government personnel.
Right.
And I'm not agreeing with that.
And everybody wants to get their hands in it.
Right.
Everybody.
Well, what bothers me about a lot of our politicians, a lot of our contract, there are a lot of people that look at tax money as free money.
It's your money.
Where in the crap do you think the government does not produce anything besides debt?
Yeah.
That's the only thing they produce. And every time they print money, it devalues the currently existing money. Government, tax dollars is not free money. It came from somewhere. So I don't understand the mentality of, well, the government's going to pay. The government doesn't pay for anything. We do.
Our tax dollars
Right.
that we pay in our own little bank account, we get it
You
back.
know,
Not all of it, but we do get it
And
back.
I know I'm on a tangent here, but
No.
like I always get tickled at the whole, well, if the rich would pay their fair share, I'm like, well, hang on a minute. Now tell me about the individual that gets 3 times more in a return than they ever paid in. Are they paying their fair share?
Hmm.
Because on that aspect, they're getting more back than they ever pay. They're not even paying a share,
Yeah, they're not working.
even if they are,
That aggravates me.
But yeah, especially if you're not working and get a tax return. Why are you getting a tax return? You didn't, you don't even have withholdings.
No.
Like, well, I've got 3 dependents. I've got 4. You're one of them.
Yep.
So I mean, it's like I said, there's a lot of this. I just don't get the mentality.
Yep.
Like I have no problem. There are like the food stamp or SNAP. What I don't know what I'll call it. Like I don't care if there's people that need define need, but need WIC, fine, great. It's there for people who need it, not for people to abuse it.
Mm-hmm.
Food stamps, medical assistance. There is assistance out there, and I have no problem for the people who need it. Of course, you have to define need, but it's the same thing as when Dode started uncovering where a lot of this money was going to and this and that. Overseas for pet projects of crap. Well, we all know a lot of it ain't going overseas. The biggest consumption of it is going to be NGOs here in the States. But my point is I would say something like, we don't need to be spending money on something this stupid when there are actual real problems going on. And then somebody else would say, well, with government funding, they go this, like so much funding gets allotted for so many different directions and all that. And my point was always, whatever we think is the most important, let's say cancer research, every dollar that is going to Iraqi Sesame Street or Venezuelan pottery classes for transgenders or whatever other crap, every dollar that was going to that was not going to cancer research.
Nope.
And that's the part that bothers me is there are things that I do believe we should look into. Now, I don't agree with subsidizing industry. That's a completely different story. But there's a other aspect that I do think we should look into. But every dollar spent on stuff that is irrelevant to what we would call important is wasted. It's given away.
Right.
And
forgot about.
By some. Some of us remember.
Yeah.
We've all been on social media. Some folks can't remember past yesterday's headlines.
No.
But yeah, I'm going to stop there before I get on my soapbox.
I meant to text you yesterday or the day before. I forgot to tell you. Remember last episode we were talking about atheists and not believing in God and they celebrate Christmas?
Right.
Well, the friend that we have that's atheist, his house was decorated and had a tree up and everything. And I'm like,
Which I think is great.
I had to chuckle
Yeah. You know,
Right.
I think it's great. You know, I can think of a person now, and I'm not mentioning names or anything, but is, you know, atheist, anti, you know, probably, you know, I think it would be safe to say it is about as anti-religion as you get without being violent.
Right.
Um, Celebrating Christmas, doing this and that. And I'm like, it's in the title, you know, like you are celebrating a holiday to a deity that you refuse to admit ever existed and want to call me stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, like I said, there's certain aspects I just don't get, and maybe it's the everybody celebrates Christmas thing. You
Yeah,
know,
maybe.
maybe it's part of the family holiday traditions.
It's Americanized religion.
Well, right, and I get that. But the part that gets me is, like I said, the number of folks who can't stand anything religious, but especially Christian, that celebrate Christmas and Easter. You know, I'm like, as far as Americanized holidays, those are the big two for the Christian community.
Yep.
And these, you know, folks which are like very anti-Christian, you know, and I'm not going to say that they're like complete haters, but maybe just a step down from that.
Yeah.
So, you know, celebrating Christmas and Easter. And I'm like, and you call us hypocrites.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, we need to, you know, like if I need to practice what I preach, shouldn't you quit practicing what I preach?
Mm-hmm. You got a cool kid on there. She's trying to be cool.
Yeah, got her shades on.
Oh, I tried unmuting her, it wouldn't let me.
Right.
Oh, there she is.
That smile.
Look at her. Oh, Holly weird.
I think maybe we should wrap this up for tonight.
Yeah, I've rambled on a little bit.
That's what it's for, though. That's what it's about.
Right.
Guys,
Yeah, there's so many things,
Glasses.
you know. Yeah, we can do this whole conformity thing for at least a couple of
At
and
least easy.
and the bad thing is, you know, if some of these talks bother people, stop giving us,
Yep.
you know, like I get it's probably pushing some buttons to talk about atheists celebrating Christmas. You know, we'll be consistent, you know, because I can't talk about atheists not celebrating Christmas.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
that's what I fully expect out of them.
Yeah.
You know, you know, like they're practicing what they preach.
One of the things I want to get out there is it says focus on Christ like love and the unity of the body of Christ, not force agreement. So basically, don't force me to believe what you believe. But we all agree on the same thing. God is the answer.
You know, like I wouldn't want to force anyone to believe anything, but there are certain aspects you have to be able to separate objective truth from subjective truth.
Right.
You know, like
You broke
the
it.
lettering on this bottle is red. It's not orange. It's not blue. You know, now you call it whatever color you want, but that doesn't make you correct.
Well, it's not Pepsi.
Absolutely not in my hand. You know, and not putting the company down by any means. I don't care for the particular one.
Oh,
You know, so there's my don't sue me. You know,
We got that covered.
Amen.
I thought that will, but dang.
Right. Well, I don't like, like we're not advertising for
No,
them. They're
no.
not paying us. So I'm,
No.
that's what always got me about a certain company's apparel line. I don't, but we spend a fortune buying their T-shirts to advertise their product. I'm like, they've got it figured out. We're the idiots.
Yeah.
Like they should give the T-shirts away to advertise their product.
Yep.
But they're selling us their advertising.
Yep.
Consumerism has made us stupid.
Yep. Fall for it every time.
Knowingly, we know that this is happening, and we still do it.
5 tacos for the price of 4 when it's the same price.
Yeah. But yeah, and wrapping up, yeah, we could definitely stay on this one. So that's kind of where I'm going to be at, unless God says otherwise.
Yeah.
There's just so much material in the world, in the church.
Yeah. Church is the worst part of it. Within the world of it.
Very well can be. And a lot of it does come down to church people, So there's some caveats for next post.
Yeah. Anything else, Miss?
Littering and
I'm just trying to keep her like,
Bueller.
she's done broke my sunglasses, so
And that's why we can't have anything nice.
Yeah.
exactly. So like, here.
Well, crapola.
Oh well.
All right. Well, we will see y'all next time. Saturday.
Yeah.
Pray for y'all. You pray for us. God's definitely moving through us to get the off.
In a spiritual sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just saying. We ain't offering Jello.
No.
No.
Yeah, Jello?
I haven't had Jello.
Oh yeah, I forgot what I was doing.
Pull up a chair, there's room for your voices. Rise where the truth comes through from coffee. Sips to midnight thoughts. This is where the real talk starts. So take a seat, have a chat, table talk. Where the real talk's at.